Okay, we're going to make a start to today's lesson. So welcome everyone to our GCSE Maths session. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at simultaneous equations, specifically quadratic simultaneous equations, just because it's a topic which hasn't come up in this year's paper yet. There's still one paper left, so this is likely to come up on that paper. Um, the starter question was on the area of a triangle, and the area of a triangle has not come up yet as well. So again, it forms a likely base to come up on the final paper as well. So we're going to be covering simultaneous equations in today's lesson, and then we have a bucket where we will be revising parallel and perpendicular lines, because again, that hasn't come up as well in this year's GCSE so far as of yet. So, going through the starter question, this was about the area of a triangle. Now, remember, the formula to work out the area of a triangle is half AB sine C. So this is the formula that you need to learn to work out the area of a triangle. Now, remember, a right angle triangle, you have your normal formula. This is your base, this is your height. To work out the normal area of a right angle triangle, it's base times height divided by 2. This is only if the triangle is right angled. If the triangle is not right angled, like the example that we have here, we're going to be using this formula. So this formula is for non-right angled triangles. Okay? And it's a really important formula in the case that you are given a shape like this, a triangle with this shape. Okay, so you can see those two lines converging and meeting at a point over here. If you know these two lines and you need to work out the angle between it, this is perfect for this formula. These two lines that I've drawn sort of a line on, these two lines, they are going to be called A and B, and the angle in the middle is going to be called C. Okay, so in this triangle, you can see that example clearly. You can see a line over here and a line over here, and we need to work out the angle in the middle of those two lines. So the two sides that we have, we're just going to label them as A and B in any order. It doesn't really matter which one's A and which one's B. And then the angle in the middle is going to be C, angle C. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use this formula. Now, what has the question told us? The question has told us that the area of the triangle is 15 meters squared, and we need to work out what the angle C, is going to be. Okay, so we know that the area of the triangle is half AB sine C, a half times A times B times sine C. That's the area of the triangle. And we know that the area is equal to 15 meters squared. So it's equal to 15. That's what the area is equal to. Now, what's A and B? We know that A is 4. We know that B is 9. So it's going to be a half times 4 times 9 multiplied by sine C. We don't know what C is. C is x. So we're just going to say sine x. And we know that that is equal to 15. Now we want x to be by itself. At the moment, it's not by itself. At the moment, it's got all these other numbers along with it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a half times 4 times 9. We can type that into our calculator. So a half times 4 times 9 gives you 18. So you have 18 times sine x, and that's equal to 15. And then you want sine x to be by itself. At the moment, it's being multiplied by 18. So to get rid of the multiply by 18, we're going to do the opposite of it, and we're going to divide by 18 on both sides. So now we're left with just sine x on that side, and it's equal to 15 divided by 18. And now we want to get this x by itself. At the moment, it's being multiplied by sine. We want to get rid of that sine. So to get rid of it, we're going to do inverse sine. Okay, we're going to inverse sine the other side. So you're going to click shift and sine, and that's going to get you sine minus 1 on your calculator, open brackets, and you're going to type this thing into your calculator. So 15 over 18. And when you type that into your calculator, so sine to the minus 1, 15 over 18, you will get an answer of 56.4 to one decimal place and to three significant figures. Okay, so 56.4 degrees. Okay, so that's how you work out a question like this. Okay, so this is the area of a triangle. Remember, if it's a right angle triangle, you just use this, base times height divided by 2. That will get you the area of the triangle. If it's not a right angle triangle, then you're going to use this formula, half AB sine C. Okay, and you're going to spot this shape where you know two sides, these two sides, as you can see, and you know the angle in the middle, or you need to work out the angle in the middle. Okay, and if you can spot that shape, the two sides, they're going to be labeled as A and B, and the angle in the middle is going to be labeled as C. Okay, so in this case, the angle C was X, and then A and B were the sides 4 and 9. We substitute them into our formula over here. So half AB sine C. In the question, we were given the area of the triangle, which was 15 meters squared. That's why we knew the area was 15. We're going to substitute A and B, which is 4 and 9. And then we rearranged it to get sine X by itself. And when we got sine X by itself, to get X by itself, we're going to inverse sine the other side. Okay, so sine to the minus 1, 15 over 18. Okay, so how do you know which formula to use? If it's a right-angled triangle, you're going to use this formula, b times h divided by 2, if it's right angle. So as you can see, this triangle that I've drawn here is right-angled. That's why we're going to be using that formula. If it's not right angled, like this triangle that you can see, this triangle, it's all the angles are different, all the sides are of different length. This is a scalene triangle because all the sides are different. We're going to be using this formula, half AB sine C. We only use the other formula if it's a right angle triangle. We would use this half AB sine C if it's not a right angle triangle. So non-right angled, and this is for right angled. Okay, so that was just like a recap question. And again, the only reason it was this question was because it's not come up yet on a GCSE Maths paper this year. Today, what we're going to be looking at is quadratic simultaneous equations, which is another topic that hasn't come up as of yet. Okay, so this is probably what you would be expected to do. And if this was to come up, it would come up towards the end of a paper. So it says solve the simultaneous equations x squared plus y squared equals 13 and x equals y minus 5. When we are solving simultaneous equations, we want to work out what is x equal to and what is y equal to. Okay, now what you are going to do in each case is you're going to substitute one equation into the other equation. Okay, that's what you're going to do. This is what you do for quadratic simultaneous equations. There is a simpler type of simultaneous equation where you get sort of 5x plus y equals 13, 4x plus y equals 7. And then what you do is you literally subtract it like that. And you work out what x is, what y is. This is something different. This is quadratic simultaneous equations. Okay, and the way that you do quadratic simultaneous equations is with one of the equations, not the ones with the squared. It's quadratic because it's got the squares. We're not going to touch that equation. You're going to deal with the other equation, the one which doesn't have any squares in it. So this one doesn't have any squares in it. Okay, you are going to make one of the letters the subject of the formula. Okay, so make one of the letters x or y the subject of the formula. The title of today's lesson is Simultaneous Equations. Okay, so you're going to make one of the letters the subject of the formula. So in this case over here, we have x equals y minus 5. As you can see, x is by itself. So x is the subject of the formula. Okay, it's by itself, so we don't need to do anything. So the question has already given us in the correct form. We've got one letter which is by itself on one side, which is what we want to proceed. Now we know that x is y minus 5. Now, because x is y minus 5, in the top equation, we have x squared plus y squared equals 13. Now, we can't figure that out. We can't work it out because we have two different letters. Okay? But what we know from the bottom equation is that x is the same as y minus 5. Okay, so what we can do, because we know that x is the same as y minus 5, is we can take that and we can substitute it into this equation in place of x, because we know that both of them are the same. X is the same as y minus 5, y minus 5 is the same as x. So in the top equation where we have x, we're going to replace the x with the y minus 5, because we know that both of them are equal to each other. Okay, so we're going to substitute into other equation. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to substitute it into the other equation. Now, once you've substituted it into the other equation, you'll get something like this. So we originally had x squared plus y squared equals 13. We know that x is the same as y minus 5. So we're going to have y minus 5 instead of x squared plus y squared equals 13. Okay, we've just replaced the x with y minus 5 because we know that both of them are the exact same thing. Okay, now what you can see is that in this case, all the letters are the same. All the letters are y. So that means we can expand the brackets and we can work out what y is going to be. So we're going to expand y minus 5 squared. So y minus 5, y minus 5. And that's going to get us y squared minus 10y plus 25 after we expand it. So we're going to have y squared minus 10y plus 25. And then we need to add the y squared, and it's equal to 13. Okay, now in this case, we can do a bit of tidying up over here. We've got y squared and y squared. So both of them added together is 2y squared minus 10y plus 25, and it's equal to 13. And now we'll move everything onto one side. So that we've got 13 on this side. So we're going to subtract 13 to move it to the other side. So everything is on one side and we have nothing else on the other side. So we're going to subtract 13 from both sides. So we're going to get 2y squared minus 10y, and then 25 subtract 13 gives you 12. So plus 12. And that's equal to 0. So we have 2y squared minus 10y plus 12 equals 0. Now that's a quadratic. We can factorize that out. Now, would this come up on a calculator or non-calculator paper? It is more likely that this topic would come up on a calculator paper, because sometimes you need to use a calculator to work out, to factorize. Okay, so we've got 2y squared minus 10y plus 12 equals 0. Now, as you can see, all of these numbers are a multiple of 2. Because all of them are a multiple of 2, you can divide all of them by 2. And that's going to get you y squared minus 5y plus 6. Okay, because we've divided all of them by 2. And that's equal to 0. Now you just need to factorize this out. So put it into brackets. Y squared minus 5y plus 6. So it's a quadratic, so we're going to have two pairs of brackets. We're going to have a y in each bracket. And then we need to think of two numbers which multiply to 6 and they add to -5. So -2 and -3 multiply to +6 and they add to -5. Okay, because -2 times -3 is +6, -2 minus 3 is -5. So that's your factorized version. Okay, and it's equal to 0. So what are your two possibilities for y? So you have y minus 2 equals 0. So y is equal to 2. And then you have y minus 3 equals 0. So y is equal to 3. So those are your two y values that you can have. Okay, now once you've worked out what your y values are, you can work out what your x values are. You're going to pick out one equation, the easiest equation. Let's pick out the second equation. You know it's x equals y minus 5. You know that y is 2 over here. So when y is 2, 2 minus 5 is -3. So that means when y is 2, x is -3. And then when y is 3, so you know x is y equals -5. And then when y is 3, 3 minus 5 is going to get you -2. So x is going to be -2. So you're going to have four sets of solutions over here. When y is 2, x is 3. And when y is 3, x is -2. Okay, so there was a lot of steps in this question, but what you need to remember is that you will be given two sets of equations, a quadratic equation and then a normal equation. You need to make one of the letters. It doesn't matter if it's x or y, just choose the easier one. You're going to make one of them the subject of the formula, and then you're going to substitute what you've made the subject of the formula into the other equation. You're then going to expand your brackets. That's what we did over here. You're going to expand your brackets. You're going to simplify down to get your final quadratic. And then you're going to factorize to get your solutions for your first letter. So we got y equals 2 and we got y equals 3. You then need to also work out the other letters. So you're going to choose one of the equations, the easier equations. And then okay, so what you're going to do once you've worked out your first letter, y equals 2, y equals 3, you need to work out the other letters, okay? The other letter, which is x. Now, to work that out, you're going to choose one of the equations. It doesn't matter which one, the top one or the bottom one. Choose the easier equation. So choose the easier equation. And you know what your y is, okay? You know what your y is. So we've chosen x equals y minus 5. You know that y is 2. So we're going to substitute it in place of y here because y is 2. And you're going to work out what x is going to be. So 2 minus 5 equals -3. So when y is 2, x is equal to -3. You're going to do the same with the other solution. You know that y is equal to 3. So in the equation, you're going to substitute y equals 3. So it's going to be 3 minus 5. 3 minus 5 gives you -2. So when y is 3, x is equal to -2. Okay, so that's where we got our solutions for in the last part. Okay, in terms of marks for this question, the question would normally be worth around 4 marks. And if it's a bit harder, which we will look at, it'll be worth around 5 marks. Okay, we'll come up right at the end of a paper. Okay, so there were a lot of steps in that question. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to have a go at a question now. A similar question. We've got this one over here that I'd like you guys to have a go at. Okay, I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. Don't worry if you can't get to the correct answer. I will go through the answers in a couple of minutes, just after everyone else has had a go. Okay, just 30 more seconds, and then I'll start going through the answers. Okay, I'm going to start going through the answers now. So it says solve the simultaneous equations. Now, when we're solving these simultaneous equations, again, as you can see at the top, we have a quadratic example, and then at the bottom, we have a normal, simpler example. Step one was to make one of the letters the subject of the formula. So make one of the letters the subject of the formula. Okay, now in this case, again, we have a letter by itself. Now, because it's by itself, it is the subject of the formula. Okay, we don't need to make anything the subject of the formula. There is already a letter by itself, so we don't need to do that first step. You're then going to substitute it into the other equation. So substitute into other equation. Okay, so in the top example, we have x squared plus y squared equals 17. And at the bottom, we know that y equals x minus 3. So y is the same as x minus 3. Okay, they are both the same. So y is x minus 3, and x minus 3 is the same as y. So in this top equation, where we have y squared, instead of the y, we can write x minus 3, because both of them are going to be the same thing. So if we substitute it in, we know that we have x squared plus y squared equals 17. X squared is going to stay by itself. Instead of y, we're going to write down the new thing. We know that y is equal to x minus 3. Okay, so instead of y, we're going to write down x minus 3, and that's being squared, and that's equal to 17. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to expand these brackets out now. So x minus 3 all squared. So let's expand it out. So x minus 3 and x minus 3. Okay, so expanding it out, we're going to get x squared minus 6x plus 9. That's our expanded brackets. So we're going to have x squared as normal on this side. Then we're going to add x squared minus 6x plus 9. So x squared at 6x, sorry, x squared minus 6x plus 9. And that's equal to 17. So simplifying it down, we have an x squared here and we have an x squared here. Both of them added together gives you 2x squared. Then you have 2x squared minus 6x plus 9, and that's equal to 17. Now we want everything to be on one side. We don't want anything to be left by itself on one side. We want everything to be moved to the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this 17 to this side. At the moment, it's positive on the other side, so to get rid of it, we're going to subtract 17 from both sides. So we're going to have 2x squared minus 6x, and now 9 minus 17 gives you minus 8. So minus 8, and that's equal to 0. There's nothing left on the other side. Okay, now this over here, 2x squared minus 6x minus 8, all of them are multiples of 2. Okay, they're all going to the 2 times table. So to simplify it down a little further, we can divide them by 2. So we're going to get 2x squared divided by 2, which is just x squared. 6x divided by 2 is going to give you 3x, so minus 3x. And then 8 divided by 2 gives you 4, so minus 4. And that's equal to 0. So this is our simplified version, x squared minus 3x minus 4. Now we're going to factorize that out. So x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. We're going to factorize that out into two sets of brackets. Can you still solve the quadratic equation without dividing by 2? Yes, if you'd like to, you didn't need to divide this by 2. You can still solve it without dividing by 2. I've just divided by 2 just to make it a little easier. Okay, but if you didn't want to divide by 2, that's fine. You'll still get the same answer. Okay, so x squared minus 3x minus 4, you're going to factorize out into two brackets. You're going to have an x in each bracket, two numbers which multiply to the n number, which is minus 4, and add to the middle number, minus 3. It's going to be minus 4 and 1. Minus 4 add 1 gives you minus 3, and minus 4 multiplied by 1 gives you minus 4. So you're going to have minus 4, and then you're going to have positive 1. Okay, so x minus 4 and x plus 1. And that's equal to 0. Now we want to work out what the values of x are. So you're going to make each of these brackets equal to 0. So you're going to have x minus 4 equal to 0. And then you're going to have x plus 1, and you're going to make it equal to 0. So then you rearrange and you get x equals 4. And then you rearrange and you get x equals minus 1. Okay, so we've worked out what the x values are. X is 4 and x is minus 1. Okay, now what we're going to do is, we've only done half the question. We've only worked out what x's are. We want to work out what the y's are going to be equal to. In order to do that, you're going to get an equation, the simple equation. As you can see, the second equation is very simple. So we have y equals x minus 3. We know that x is 4, so what's y going to be? So when x is 4, instead of x, we're going to write down 4. 4 minus 3 equals 1. So when x is 4, y is equal to 1. So y is equal to 1. And then we have another x over here. So we're going to use that equation again, y equals x minus 3. When x is minus 1, we want to work out what y is going to be. So when x is minus 1 minus 3, that's going to get you an answer of minus 4. So that means that y is going to be equal to minus 4. Okay, so that's what your answers should be. X is 4, y is 1. X is minus 1, y is minus 4. Okay, so those are your 4 sets of answers that you should have in terms of what x is going to be and what y is going to be. And to check your answer, if you substituted the x and the y into the equation, it should be true. Okay, so for example, let's substitute this one in. X is 4, y is 1. So in this top equation, we know that x squared plus y squared should equal 17. X is 4, so 4 squared, plus y, which is 1, 1 squared. Does that equal 17? 4 squared is 16. 16 add 1 is 17. That is true. So we know that our answers are correct. That's a way that you can use to check your answers. Could you do this on the calculator? You wouldn't be able to do this on the calculator, on the normal calculators that you have for GCSE. In order, how to solve the quadratic equation without dividing by 2? To solve this quadratic equation without dividing by 2, it's a different way. You can use the quadratic formula and you can substitute into your calculator and you can work out what x is going to be. Um, or what you can do is you can just factorize it the long way. So you will eventually just get an answer like this, the factorized version anyway. But what you can do is there's another method that I don't want to go into depth of the method. You multiply the first number by the last number, and then you choose which two numbers, multiply to the end number, and add to the middle number. And then you have two brackets. One of them just needs to be simplified down. Yes, so in terms of IGCSE EdXL, the content in terms of maths will be the majority of the same concepts. So this should be available, but I'll check the IGCSE EdXL. But as far as I'm concerned, it should be applicable for that as well. Okay, so there's many ways to factorize this out. You can use the quadratic formula, or you can factorize without dividing by 2 as well. But the simplest way in this case would be to divide by 2, get a simple quadratic, and then you can factorize it out. Okay, so we have another example. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to have a go at it. This time, you don't have a single letter as the subject. You have to make something the subject of the formula. Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple of minutes, and then I'll start going through the answers. Okay, just one more minute, and then I'm going to start going through the answers. Okay, I'm going to start going through the answers now. So it says solve these simultaneous equations, x squared plus y squared equals 20 and 3x equals 2 minus y. Okay, now as you can see, we don't have a single letter as the subject. We have a 3x as the subject. And remember, step one with any question was to make sure that you have a single letter as the subject of the formula. Okay, now there are two ways that you can make the subject of the formula. So at the moment, you can see it's 3x. So to get rid of that 3, you can divide by 3 on both sides, and then that would get rid of the 3 on this side. So you would just be left with x equals 2 minus y divided by 3. Now this looks a bit scruffy. Okay, this is very scruffy because you have a divide in there. Okay, it's going to be very difficult to substitute this into the top equation. Okay, that's why there is a different way to make something else the subject of the formula. So we have 3x equals 2 minus y. We've tried making x the subject. When we made x the subject, we had this dodgy divide sign in, which is just going to make our lives very difficult when we substitute it into the top equation. Okay, now we've got 3x equals 2 minus y. Okay, now can we try and make y the subject of the formula? Okay, if we move the y to the other side, at the moment it's minusing y. Let's add y to both sides. And that's going to get us 3x plus y equals 2. And let's get rid of this 3x and we'll move it to the other side. At the moment it's adding, so let's subtract 3x from both sides. And that's going to get you y equals 2 minus 3x. Okay, and now you have y the subject of the formula. That's fine. We've made y the subject of the formula, and it's cleaner than this thing that we had over here with the divide sign. Y equals 2 minus 3x is much simpler to deal with than when we made x the subject of the formula. So if you try making something the subject and it gives you a divide sign and it's very difficult to deal with, try make the other letter the subject. Okay, so x was very difficult to deal with, so we made y the subject, and y is much easier to deal with. Y equals 2 minus 3x. Okay, so what we're going to do, we know that y is the same as 2 minus 3x. So we're going to get this and we're going to substitute in here in place of y. So instead of y, we're going to write 2 minus 3x because we know that both of them are the exact same thing. So we have x squared plus y squared equals 20. Nothing's going to happen to the x squared. It's going to stay as it is. Instead of the y, we're going to write down 2 minus 3x. Okay, so we're going to have 2 minus 3x instead of the y, and we're going to square it, and that's going to be equal to 20. Okay, now if we expand these brackets out, 2 minus 3x squared, let's expand them out. So 2 minus 3x, and then 2 minus 3x. We're going to get 4 minus 6x minus 6x, and then we're going to have add 9x squared. Okay, so simplifying that down, we're going to have 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. Okay, so we've just simplified that down and expanded the brackets. So let's bring it back up here. So we have x squared plus the expanded version over here, 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. So add 9x squared minus 12x, add 4, and that's equal to 20. Okay, let's tidy it up a bit. We have an x squared here and a 9x squared here. Adding them together, we get 10x squared. So we have 10x squared minus 12x plus 4, and that's equal to 20. And now let's move this 20 to the other side. So we have everything on one side of the equation. So to move it to the other side, we're going to subtract 20 from both sides. That's going to get rid of the 20 on this side. So you're left with 10x squared minus 12x minus 16, and that's equal to 0. So 4 minus 20 gives you minus 16. Now, as you can see, 10, 12, and 16, they are all divisible by 2. Okay, they all go into the 2 times table. So what we can do is we can divide all of these by 2, just so we have a simpler quadratic on our hands. 10 divided by 2 is 5, So we have 5x squared minus 12 divided by 2 is minus 6. So we have minus 6x. And then minus 16 divided by 2 is minus 8. And that's equal to 0. Okay, now this quadratic is simpler to factorize than the original 10x squared that we had. Okay, if you rearrange 4 minus 12x plus 9 times 2, if we rearrange, okay, so over here, the signs don't change in this case. The reasons why they don't change is because over here you just take the sign in front of it. So you had plus 9x squared. So you bring that forward. So you have 9x squared. And then we have the minus 12x. So minus 12x, because there's a minus, we're just going to bring the minus with it. So it's going to be minus 12x. And the 4 in front of it, there's a secret positive sign. So we're going to take that and it's going to be plus 4. That's why it's 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. You don't change the signs, you just bring the signs that are in front of it with it. Okay, so now we have 5x squared minus 6x minus 8, and that's equal to 0. Okay, now you can use a calculator to factorize this out using quadratic formula, or you can just factorize this out using brackets, okay, which I'm going to do over here. So there's many different ways to factorize this out. There's loads of different ways that you can use to factorize this out. The way that I use is I split up two brackets like that. There's a 5 in front of the x squared, so I'll put a 5x in each bracket like that. I multiply the first number to the last number, so 5 times minus 8 is minus 40, and the middle number is minus 6. So we have minus 40 and minus 6. I'm going to think of two numbers which multiply to minus 40 and they add to minus 6. Okay, so minus 10 add 4. If you had minus 10 and 4, minus 10 multiplied by 4 gives you minus 40. Minus 10 add 4 gives you minus 6. So I'm going to put minus 10 and positive 4 in the brackets. Now this first bracket can be simplified because both of them are multiples of 5. So 5x divided by 5 is just x, minus 10 divided by 5 gives you minus 2. So we're going to have x minus 2 here, and the second bracket can't be simplified, so we're going to leave it as 5x plus 4. And that's your factorized version, which is equal to 0. Yes, if you wanted to, you can use the quadratic formula and type into your calculator to factorize it out as well. Okay, so we've factorized it out. We're going to make each bracket equal to 0. So x minus 2 equal to 0. And then 5x plus 4 equal to 0. So x is 2. And then if we rearrange this, we get 5x equals minus 4. And then to get x by itself, we're going to divide by 5 on both sides. So we're going to get x is equal to minus 4/5. So those are our two values for x. X equals 2 or x equals minus 4/5. Now we want to work out what the y values are as well. Okay, so to work out what y values are, we're going to choose the easiest equation. So 3x equals 2 minus y. We know that x is 2. So instead of x, we're going to write down 2, like that. And that's equal to 2 minus y. Okay, so we have 6 equals 2 minus y. Okay, and now rearranging it, let's make y positive first. So we have y on the other side. If we add y, we have y, and then y plus 6 equals 2. And then let's move the 6 to the other side. Let's subtract 6 from both sides. And you get y equals 2 minus 6, which is minus 4. So when x is 2, y is equal to minus 4. Okay. To be honest, you could have just substituted it in the rearranged equation as well. You didn't have to substitute it into this exact equation. We rearranged it to make it easier for ourselves by doing y equals 2 minus 3x. So you could have substituted into that equation as well. And then this second one, y equals minus 4/5. So when x is minus 4/5, what is y going to be equal to? So let's use this rearranged equation instead. So y equals 2 minus 3, x is minus 4/5. Okay, and if you wanted to, you can just type that into your calculator. So 2 minus 3 lots of minus 4/5, that's going to get you an answer of 22/5 if you type into your calculator. Okay, so 22/5 is your value for y. Okay, so when x is 2, y is minus 4. When x is 4/5, y is 22/5. How do you do 5x divided by 5? When you do 5x divided by 5, you're basically just going to divide the numbers. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, and the x would stay as it is. So it would be 1x, but you don't write that 1 because it's just a 1. You just write x. So 5x divided by 5 would just be x. Okay, you just divide the numbers.